Welcome to this week's Almost Abstract Weekly News. My name is Rob Yates. I am one of your hosts, and I'm delighted to welcome back somebody special in my life tonight. My co-host, my rhythm to my stick, the bangers to my mash, the queen to my king, the scotch to my rocks, the peak to my mountain, Mr. Mark Hopkins. Hoppy, welcome back.
The peak to my mountain. That sounds slightly dodgy.
I've actually got 4 scribbled off on here because I was going down quite a pornographic route for a while, I have to be honest.
I know that one's starting. You can see that was number 1, so I hate to think what number 4 was.
I went down a route of my Michael Jackson to my children's home or something like that, and I decided that was just worth walking away from.
But yet you still repeat it now live and
recorded. Yeah, that live now on YouTube. We're going to be banned from YouTube. There we go.
Oh, that'll be one of our ambitions then, because we still haven't had any negative comments or complaints yet.
Oh no, we have on the not video I did on the YouTube channel. Check it out in the link. Mark will put the link in somewhere when this goes on YouTube. There's some people on there who are like, you can't call the reef knot a Boy Scout knot, and they were like blah 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 blah, and I'm like, seriously? Anyway, I've got exciting news, Hoppy, because I don't just have one of these. I have 2 of these. We have to say thank you to Tian Van Sale, who might be watching this at some point in time, and Husqvarna for equipping Mark and I with some sexy new, I was going to call them boys' toys, because ladies' toys always sound a bit rude, but these new boys' toys, our new Husqvarna axes for us to go and use. So thank you to Husqvarna and Tian Van Sale for sorting out those. I'll be doing a review on these axes, and we'll be doing some tuition stuff with Mark on these axes in the next month or so. So yeah, thank you to Husqvarna for the new people toys. In this week's weekly news, we have at the end a massive highlight for you. Would you like to know how to win a 8-night, all expenses paid hiking trip to the Atlantic coast of Ireland? If you want to know how to do this, that's going to be the thing that we cover at the end. We're going to share with you a web link about how to go and enter the competition to go and do it. A 8-night, all expenses paid trip along Ireland's Wild Atlantic Way. So if that is interesting to you, a free trip somewhere overseas, unless you're Irish and then you can just drive your car, then please stay on board.
But
Poppy,
do you know, Rob, that those do come with disclaimers.
Really?
Anything to do with Ireland comes with a disclaimer, which is you are guaranteed to get pissed on for at least 7 out of those 8 days. Guaranteed.
Yeah. So you'll see 4 seasons in a day, every day for the whole time you're there. But all I can say to you, Mark, is Guinness.
Oh,
that's it.
Seriously.
Stop. Just
it is.
Guinness.
So I tell you my funny Irish story.
No.
So my sister lives in Ireland, and I went over to see her. And I flew into the airport, picked up my hire car, drove my hire car to where she lived. I phoned her up and said, "Where are you?" She said, "I'm in the pub." So I parked my car outside the pub, went inside. 8 days later, came back, picked up my hire car from outside the pub and drove it back. The biggest waste of a hire car I've ever had. It didn't move from outside the pub for 8 days. It got dust all over it. The worst thing in that pub is they did a tab for me. So for 8 days, when you get to pay your tab at the end of it, and you realise how much Guinness you've drunk over 8 days. I think it was something about 88 pints of Guinness, just Guinness, over 8 days. Oh, it was. I didn't go to the toilet for 5 days afterwards.
Yes, because you were empty. So the first article we're going to kick off with this week is about COVID adventure protocols and what guides and adventure businesses should be doing if you go and engage with them now in this period where, frankly, nobody knows what's going on with COVID coronavirus at all. It would be fair to say that when any country says, apart from New Zealand, that is, but when any other country other than New Zealand says we've got it under control, it probably means they haven't. So who knows what's going to be happening? But Mark, if you were to guess, because you haven't read this article, if you were to guess what the advice is for outdoor adventure businesses and guides in the outdoors to like keep their customers safe, what sort of things do you think they'd cover in this article?
Well, knowing that title is probably going to be crap, because it's another crap title.
Yeah.
But the obvious one's going to be social distancing. One, there's obviously about wiping stuff down. But I hope they've been a little bit sensible and say you should be getting everybody outside because it's the safest place to be. That's what I'm hoping they say is the protocol. Offer 50% discount, or we'll subsidise 50% of your fees so everyone gets out and doesn't get sick. That's what I reckon they should do. Yeah,
no, it doesn't say that. It just talks about all the scary stuff. So it talks about social distancing, about wiping stuff down and getting it clean. And most of that's pretty easy, mountain biking, hiking, whatever else. Whitewater rafting. Now, there's some interesting guidelines come out for whitewater rafting. Now, I want to mention this because obviously the people who wrote the guidance have never, ever whitewater rafted. So your average whitewater raft has 8 to 10 people in it, plus a guide. And they all sit down the sides of the raft. They have a paddle and they propel the raft about the river under the guidance of the raft guide. And I've guided a lot of rafts in my time. And one of the things that I know is that if you have 6 or less people in your raft, your rafts are already friggin' impossible to move about, really. And so what they're recommending now is that they have a guide with 2 to 4 customers in the raft.
You've got no weight at all in that thing.
You've got no weight, no power. You're going to bob around like a cork and get bounced all over the place. It's going to be a bit like taking out the motor and the bus driver on a bus and fixing 2 bicycles at the front of the bus, one of the double-decker buses, and say, pedal, please. It's going to be a little bit like that.
So I'll tell you the scariest place I went whitewater rafting was in Victoria Falls going down the Zambezi.
Oh, amazing.
It was until, so we came, there's one there called the washing machine, which is like this big face, and we hit it flush and I got just jettisoned out. So you go, and it was the top of, I think, 3 or 4 rapids in a row. So you literally go through them all on your butt, you sit your feet first and you get there. Which is all well and good, but the problem is as soon as you get to the still water at the bottom of the rapids, you start looking around. And as you look around, you realise that you're not alone. Because on the banks of the Zambezi, they've got these freaking massive things called crocodiles. So as you're there bobbing in the water, next thing is you hear the splash as a croc goes into the water. And you are just in there waiting for the safety kayak to come and grab you, and you have no idea how close this croc is. I absolutely shat myself.
So in a lot of the world, when you're guiding a whitewater raft and it's quite a big river, and you say to people, if you're close to the shore or close to some flat water, and after the raft's flipped, like, go there, because that's pressing pause on everybody flushing down the river. And yet when you go to the White Nile and the Zambezi and you guide there, you're like, whatever you do, stay in the scary water.
Yeah, exactly. You start swimming backwards to try and stay in the rapid because you just got no desire to make friends with the croc. But anyway, that was my scary.
A bit of an aside as another story that maybe we should cover at some point in time, but 2 or 3 Christmases ago, they do bungee jumping at Victoria Falls over the Zambezi, on the bridge over the Zambezi there. And you've done it. Well, so 2 or 3 Christmases ago, a girl jumped off and she kept falling and falling and falling. And then there was a twang and she kept falling and falling.
Oh.
And she hit the water because the bungee cord had snapped.
Oh my gosh.
And so she washed through the first rapid on the Zambezi with her ankles strapped together with bungee cord and that harness that they put around your ankles when you bungee jump, and no life jacket on, and still survived to tell the tale.
No way. That's quite a cool story. So I'll tell you another story about that bungee jump over the Vic Falls.
Yeah.
We know somebody who's done something pretty obscure and crazy off that bridge. They have bungee jumped with their bicycle.
Really?
Yeah.
Derek.
Sat on the bicycle and they cycled off they bungeed with their bicycle attached. Now imagine if there was this much gap between the seat and you know what happens. Imagine when you land, if there was literally, I would have duct taped everything to make sure there was no gap. He's the second person ever to have cycled off and bungeed off Vic Falls.
Wow. That's Derek,
cool, right?
Derek, right?
Yeah.
Derek, thought so. I know people who've been in their kayaks off that bungee jump, but then you're inside your kayak. Then there's not a lot of moving parts. Then with a bike, ouch.
Yeah, imagine that.
Speaking of things that scare you, now I've kayaked all over the world on saltwater, freshwater, canoed, sailed, surfed, and there is one thing that scares me more than anything else, more than drowning, more than being like shipwrecked. Do you know what it is?
Yes, watching me kayak.
Well, yeah, that's terrifying all on its own. But I mean, great white sharks. Great white sharks. The idea of kayaking along and something just launches itself out of the water, bites off half your body, and then disappears. That whole Jaws thing. Anyway, in Cape Town in South Africa in the past few days, there has been groups of surf kayakers and surfers on surfboards all sat out beyond the break waiting for the waves. And we'll put it in the link, but there's been groups of great white sharks that have swum up to go and investigate these groups of kayakers and surfers just bobbing about in the sea.
I live here where we've got a lot of sharks. We've got shark nets on our beaches and stuff like that. And my son recently went to the edge of the pier, and he got to the edge of the pier and as he jumped in, he said, as I was literally launching, you know the point of no return, where you there was a brown, the water's a bit murky, and there's fin swam right underneath where he jumped in.
Oh!
Imagine that. That must, yeah.
That's terrifying. And so the advice from the South African National Sea Rescue Institute, here's their advice about going in the water when there's been shark sightings. So the first thing is don't swim, surf, or kayak anywhere near somewhere where there's been birds, dolphins, or seals. Don't swim, surf, or kayak anywhere where there's been fishing taking place. Don't go beyond the breakers. Don't swim near river mouths. Don't swim, surf, or kayak alone. Don't swim, surf, or kayak at dawn or dusk. Don't swim, surf, or kayak when there's been a whale sighting. So basically, just don't swim, surf, or kayak. That's it. That's the advice.
That's good. I like that. I like the ambiguity in there.
That's it. And apparently you can consider using a personal shark shield. I wonder if those are like those invisible coronavirus mask shields that we have that go down in front of your face, but a full body version to protect you from sharks.
You know, I was thinking a personal shark bodysuit would be.
What's that?
My ex-wife.
Bless her. She'd
I'm joking.
Lindsay, I'm sorry if you hear this, but you would talk them out of anything. Anyhow, moving on. So sharks, they terrify me. But a lot of other people, Mark, have been terrified by the isolation caused during the global pandemic. And I read an article on Monday by a guy called Mike Horn. Do you know who Mike Horn is, Mark?
Oh,
So Mike Horn is a global adventurer who's sponsored by Laureus Sport, Gillette, Mercedes-Benz, all sorts.
The best a man can get. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. This was enough singing. Thank you. He's done all sorts of cool things, like he was the first person to go around the world on foot. He's done pole to pole. He's sailed. He's canoed. He's kayaked. He's driven cars. He even drove a 4x4 to the K2 base camp. I mean, how cool's that? Anyway, during his time, his thing is that he is a solo adventurer. So he has spent months and months and months on his own in the middle of nowhere, just dealing with himself, really. And I liked this because I quite like his take on this time that we're in now, in lockdown and quarantine and social distancing and whatever else. And so I just want to share a few of his tips, really. The first one is he thinks we should all view this as an opportunity, not a threat. An opportunity to press reset, an opportunity to get some chill time, an opportunity to reevaluate what it is that you're doing or how you live your life. An opportunity to learn more, or even get to know your close loved ones more, or make plans to take new dreams into a reality. I quite like that.
Beautiful. I'm shedding a tear.
That's it. But he's got some other practical tips that I quite like as well. Now, Mark, you've been working from home now since about the middle of February. Poor bugger. Before me jumping into Mike's, you've had your son Seth about, you and Donna have both been pretty much working at home because she's got her own business, we've got our own business, etc., etc. What tips have you got for people out there with regards to, I don't know, using this time to plan for getting outdoors more, or managing a family, or what ideas have you got?
Jeepers, I'm just about surviving. I think with the kids, it's getting them into a really good routine as quick as possible. That's been the biggest savior for me, and sticking to that routine. So that's been an absolute blessing. I think another tip is do not do back-to-back online meetings. They are the biggest killers. So finish a meeting 10 minutes before the hour, start the next one. That's another big tip. Third one is during the day, at least allocate 15 to 20 minutes to start researching and planning a outdoor trip that you want to do afterwards. That's my third one. Fourth one is all of us have things you and I are desperate to get out hiking and do something, and it's starting to get us a little bit insane. So I try and watch 10 minutes of outdoor videos, just even though I can't physically do it, I can start sensing that. And it helps me start using this time. I've spent quite a lot of time, obviously, watching your videos, playing around with stuff. I've done the desk stand that my laptop's on now. I've built this desk stand. I've been learning different about knots. I've been hanging up hammocks in different ways. I've been playing. So using my garden space to do as much playing as possible would be another tip.
Cool. I've been doing that stuff. And the other day I took a branch off a big tree in my garden, and I've been carving spoons and making mallets and doing all sort of cool wood whittling things. I even got my little girl Caitlin making a wooden mallet with me. She's 4 years old, and there she was using my axe. That was pretty cool.
Came back with all the fingers.
Yeah. She's good with sharp things. And you can only cut those fingers off once, so when they're gone, they're gone. So
you learn your lesson pretty quick.
That's it. And it's quite hard to cut off all your fingers and thumbs with an axe because you have to hold the axe with one hand.
So you're guaranteed at least 5.
Exactly. So there's a 50% success rate, guaranteed.
Shit. Oh, that's the winner.
That's it. And it's very unlikely you do all your digits. So I reckon you'd be about 80%, 90% success rate. And if I was a gambling person, I'd be in for odds like that.
I tell you what, a spoon made out of a branch versus 2 fingers, I'll take the spoon any day.
Exactly. Well, you won't be able to hold a knife and fork afterwards, so you'll have to have just one knife. So speaking of that, like we're all using our time now to get out and or to start to think about how we can get out when this has all opened up and we can get back to going in the outdoors and doing some cool stuff again. And I stumbled upon an article by a mum who is a solo hiker who has a passion for long distance hiking, but equally she has a passion for her kids. And she has to strike this balance where, like Mark was saying, she feels like she'll go nuts if she doesn't go out and go hiking, hit the trail, backpack, etc., etc. But when she does that, she then feels like she's being torn back home the entire time to go and be the mum. Now, even though her kids are like, yes, mum, go have adventures, that's super cool. Her partner's like, yes, I don't know whether they're married or not, but yes, go do that. That's cool. I support you. Nevertheless, it still has like, you can end up with the outdoors being a guilty thing, which isn't truly satisfying because you kind of, the moment you get in the outdoors, you start focusing on being back home again and what you haven't done there. And so she started to write some tips about things that she's been finding help her break through that guilt of going away for prolonged periods of time and actually fully enjoying herself while she's there without without like negating her responsibilities or stopping being a mum. So I just thought I'd share a few of them. And the first one is talk to your kids about what it is you want to go and do and why it is you want to go and do it, and start infusing them about it. Show them the map, show them onto Google, show them pictures, get them to buy into your hike or your paddle or your whatever it might be, especially if they're too young to join you, because the next part of it is see if you can find a way to get them to join you for some of it, all of it. Maybe it's just camping at the same spot as you overnight and you hike during the daytime. Maybe it is doing a shorter day. That's another great thing that she's found that she's doing. And one of the things that she's noticed is that her 5-year-old can hike a lot further than she ever thought was possible. And I think that's really important. I think parents put blocks in kids' ways too often. I look like my 4-year-old is cutting things with an axe, and she uses a sharp, very sharp vegetable knife to cut vegetables for our dinner. She does all the veg prep. Because you've got children are slaves, right? That's the thing.
Exactly. It's the only reason you have them.
Exactly. So yeah. And
I can't use that word now anymore. The S word's banned.
What is?
The S word. You can't use that word now.
S word. What, with an E and an slave. X afterwards? Slave. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Damn it. My level of political correctness has gone completely out of the window tonight. I've lost it. So the next thing she mentions is communicating well in advance. Don't ever let anything be a shock. Tell them like when, where, and how long, and start doing it months in advance. And then the last thing is, once everybody's bought into it, don't let yourself feel guilty. Just go and get on with it in the knowledge that you'll be a better person when you get home.
I concur. Very easily said, though. It's quite hard to do sometimes as a parent. And you need to be very lucky to have a supportive person who will take care of the kids when you're gallivanting around.
Yeah, but that's just about choosing the right wife, husband, partner, so on and so forth, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's easier said than done as well, I suppose.
I have to say, jeepers.
Yeah, that's it. I've been very lucky, but I had some smashes before I got lucky. That would be fair to say. So yeah, go out there, get out there. Mark, how do you manage it when you go away and leave Seth and Donna behind? What sort of things do you do to ensure that you don't feel too guilty, or you have the best possible time when you get out there?
Yeah, probably a lot what you've just said. I think making sure that the people you're leaving behind they know how important it is for you and the benefit that you're going to get. And to be honest, if they love you, then they want you to be happy anyway. So I think that's the key one. And I try not to do, I think it's try not to go away for too long. I think because you do have responsibilities, so it's always a balance between the two. And finally, is make sure that when you are at home, that you're investing and being present with them. Because I think all my son wants is when it's daddy and son time, then it's daddy and son time. It's not daddy on the phone or this, it's daddy and son time. So give them what they want when you say you're going to do it, and then they're very, very tolerant of when you go away.
Cool. I like it. I do the same stuff. Okay, now moving on, because I don't want to keep these wonderful people too long tonight, but it is important they do know what the news is. So there was the last article before we talk about the picture of the week and then jump in how you can win a trip to Ireland to go hiking, all expenses paid. The last article I found that kind of I liked because it's really, I like this article, Mark, because it's really practical. It's titled Troubleshoot Your Weekend, 21 Tips to Go on the Perfect Backpacking Trip. And it goes through and identifies a series of problems and then talks about things that you can do to overcome these problems. Now, I have to be honest, the problems they've identified and the solutions are kind of common sense, but I still like it. So some of the problems, what are the problems you have, Mark, when you go backpacking? What sort of things would you want to get fixed?
Don't know really problems. I think obviously it's, for me, a big priority is when I go backpacking, I want to eat well. That for me is such an important part of backpacking. That's the whole experience of getting to your camp, setting your camp up and having a really nice meal. And I think a lot of people are very uncreative and boring when they go backpacking and they don't think about food. So that'd be one. I've had issues with my shoes breaking, that's a problem. Laces breaking, and I've had to take a spare and then the spares break again. So how much duct tape can you do around your foot to hold your feet in? That's probably a bit of a problem. Rats eating through my backpack was a little bit annoying. Had to manage that and sew my backpack up a little bit. What else? Well, I think bears is a problem backpacking.
All of those problems are insurmountable. On the food front, by the way, I recommend people spend some time creating their own food to eat. And if you're worried about weight, buy yourself a dehydrator. It'll be the best $50 or however much they cost you'll ever spend, because you get to eat really high quality home cooked food that weighs almost nothing, and all you have to do is add water to it a few hours beforehand, let it slosh around, and it rehydrates itself. I'm a massive fan of that. The idea of eating some beef stroganoff that has got so much salt in it that's all you can taste, and you add water, and somebody cooked it in a factory 14 years ago. That's what it tastes like. And there you are, just like pouring boiling water in. That just turns me off. But you can eat super well in the outdoors.
Yeah, that one we did, that interview with Taku was quite cool.
Oh yeah, people go check out the interview with the outdoor chef Taku. He's got some really, really cool ideas in that. That's on our YouTube channel. So go check out this article. It's got loads of stuff. Say again.
Give me your favorite two problems and solutions from the article.
So it's too effing hot. That's the one that makes me laugh.
What's the solution for that?
So like dress appropriately and wear sunscreen and have like a neck gaiter, and then hike strategically, rise early and hike early and have a long lunch break, or get to wherever you're going to by lunch break and chill out by a river or something for the rest of the day. Common sense stuff, eh? But I think if I look at a lot of these, actually that approach and that thought process actually is what all of us need to be thinking more of. Even with weather patterns, if it looks like the weather's going to be appalling in the afternoon, get up early and hike in the morning, and then get to your campsite before it gets appalling in the afternoon, or vice versa. I think that all too often people try and live their outdoor experience by almost like we do activity from 8 till 4 or 8 till 3:30, just like a work day, and then we get up at the same time and go to bed at the same time, so on and so forth. And I think that's a bit of a red herring in terms of keeping yourself safe. I think that you need to go and work out how far you want to go, what the weather's going to be like, and how fit you are, and then get up accordingly. Personally speaking, when I'm backpacking, I'm a big fan of a 4 a.m. alarm clock, 5:15 backpack on, and getting to a campsite for lunchtime and chilling out by a nice river or a pool for the afternoon, reading a book, having a whiskey, having a sleep, and chilling out. I really like that, but it's not always possible to do it like that. So yeah, being flexible, I think, and really thinking ahead is probably what this is really plugging more.
Yeah, I concur.
That's it. And I like this. Somebody says you can't always get enough work time. And that speaks to me. I had a friend who's was a kayaker. Chris drowned kayaking actually about 10 or 12 years ago now. Chris loved kayaking, and he had a really good job. He was a quantity surveyor in the UK. And he reached a stage where he started trading his yearly pay rise for extra days vacation. And then he got a master of, working some extra hours during the month so he could get like 2 days time off in lieu at the end of a month, having done those extra 2 days, those extra, if you do it, an hour a day extra for for 20 days, that's like 3 days time off in lieu he was getting. And then he was busy plugging that and linking that with public holidays. So he's like bought himself some extra vacation time. He's got some time off in lieu, and then manipulating the public holidays to get as many weeks away kayaking as possible in his case. And sensible things like if you want to fly overseas, book your flight for 9 or 9:30 at night. So that means you can work all day, jump in your car and go straight to the airport and still have plenty of time to check in and get your international flight. And you haven't had to waste a day's vacation to go do that. And I think that is something that everybody could be thinking of, because I think everybody could have far more weeks away doing cool things if they just manipulated their vacation time better.
Good advice. Jeepers, this is a bit bizarre tonight. We're actually giving some proper advice. This is a bit scary. We need to move on quite quickly.
Yeah, okay, cool. No worries. Let's move on. Okay, so we're going to move on now. Before we go on how to go and win that trip to Ireland, Mark, picture of the week this week in the We Get Outdoors tribe. Who does it belong to, please, and why?
I've been noticing there's been some really cool family-ish activity. Lots of photos this week on the tribe of doing things in groups, hiking together. So it's really cool to see that spirit, that outdoor spirit coming out. But I've gone with a photo by Mia. Could be Mia or Maya. If everyone pronounces M-I-A differently, either Mia or Mia Ramone. And she put a stunning photo up of, I'm assuming it's a sunset. It looks very much like a sunset to me. And the reason is it reminded me of the most beautiful sunset I'd ever seen in my life, which was in the South Island of New Zealand. And I do find, even though I think I prefer sunrises, but I love the colours of sunsets. And there's nothing better than sitting outside in the bush with a gin and tonic and looking at the sunset. And it just took me back to a happy place. And I think, in essence, that's what I like about a lot of the photos in the tribe. Is yes, they're all very, very unique, and they're different places that you and I have never been to, or most of them we've never ever been to. But as you look at them, those photos, you can imagine yourself in that environment. And that's what I love about the outdoor photos. So that's the sunset. I love photos that give me back memories. So thank you very much to Mia or Maya Ramone for bringing back some awesome memories.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you, Mia and Maya. That is amazing. And here we are now to the highlight at the end of this week's episode. The link for this will be in YouTube, and I will also put the link to this into Facebook right this very second. Let me just go do that quickly as I multitask in a very bizarre way. National Geographic, that awesome organization that does so many cool things, has partnered with a tailored adventure travel business to offer a lucky couple a 8-night epic adventure trip along Ireland's west coast. Now, if you haven't been to Ireland or to the Atlantic coast of Ireland, Dingle Bay, for instance, just as a place, it is one of the most beautiful places, Mark, isn't it, in Europe?
Oh, it is spectacular. And before you tell a little bit, I'm going to add an extra incentive into this.
Go on.
So my sister lives in that part of the world. So if any one of the tribe members applies for it and wins it, let us know, and I'll ensure that you get a proper Irish hospitality with my sister and her whole Irish boyfriend and the family, and they'll show you a crack.
Awesome. And a big headache the following day, probably.
Yeah.
So cool things, Dingle Distillery is there. It's got amazing whiskies there. You've obviously going to fly in and fly out of damn it, what's the capital city?
Dublin, you know.
Dublin. I fly in and out of Dublin, so you're going to get to go to the Guinness factory as well, have a tour around the Guinness factory, and spend 8 nights on a self-drive stroke hiking adventure along the west coast of Ireland, following part of the Wild Atlantic Food Trail as well. So they're talking here about salmon, fresh fish, Irish food. What more could you ask for? So if that's that's something that you would be interested to, I've just put the link into Facebook now. The link will be beneath in YouTube. And if you're listening to this on Apple, iTunes rather, go check out the We Get Outdoors tribe, and with the links in there. And the more of us who put our hats in the ring, there we are, look, the more chance it is that a We Get Outdoors tribe member gets to go and enjoy it. You have to enter in the next few weeks and book by Christmas if you win. And then the travel period is from the 1st of April to the 31st of October 2021. So yeah, check that out. What do you reckon, Mark? Should we enter?
I'm seriously entering. It's a chance to go and see my sister. I haven't seen her for years. So yeah, I'm entering. As soon as we finish this, I'm entering.
Excellent. I would be your +1, but I don't think that will go down very well.
You never know. Stop talking now.
Stop talking now. The only thing is, if you win it, it can't clash with our 2 to 3 weeks on the Yukon next year.
No, well, the good thing about that is at least I won't find any bears on the Irish Wall.
No, they'll all have blown off.
Even they can cope with the weather there. The wettest country, it rains the most there. It's the country that has the most days of rainfall in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
like 340 days a year it rains there.
That's a bit like Fort William in Scotland. That's like Europe's wettest town or something like that. It's ridiculously. Anyway, there we go. So there we have it. That brings us to the end of this week's news. We've spoken about sharks, about backpacking, about hiking, about a free trip to Ireland, about dealing with the isolation during this pandemic, and about the obvious things that outdoor and adventure guides should be doing if you go and engage with them. If you have any articles or news or anything you would like us to cover in next week's weekly news, please go and send it to us, wegetoutdoorstribe@gmail.com, or DM us via our Facebook page, comments on YouTube. Just find us somewhere and send us a message. And we will include it. And we look forward to coming and joining you next week. Mark, anything in closing from you?
I'm really glad I got my buff on because it is bloody cold.
It's just, when Mark says it's bloody cold, it's still about 85 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way, where he is. He lives by the Indian Ocean, and it never gets much colder than 80 degrees.
I am in shorts and T-shirt.
He is in shorts and a T-shirt. I've got like merino wool socks on, a merino wool thermal. It's damn cold in Joburg. But anyway, there we go. So that's it from me. I Get Outdoors.
You get outdoors.
We all get outdoors. That's it from me. Good night.
Good night.